Right, hi everybody. Welcome to our introducing Microsoft 365 Business Voice. So today we are joined by Peter, who is a Microsoft certified professional. He's going to take you through the key features and benefits of Microsoft 365 Business Voice. Over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Angus, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining today. I hope you're having a great day. As Angus said, my name is Peter McCleavery. I'm a cloud solution specialist for Geocom. We're a close Microsoft partner, and I'll be delivering today's webinar on Business Voice. So just to give you a quick agenda of the next sort of 30 minutes or so. So what I wanted to do is spend the first sort of couple of slides, 5 minutes or so, giving you a quick introduction to Microsoft Teams itself. Now, Business Voice as a phone product sits within Microsoft Teams. So I thought it'd be a good idea to really have a quick intro of Teams itself. Some of you may already use Teams, and if so, that's great. Or some of you may be new to it, so hopefully you can pick up some stuff along the way. Once we've done that, we'll jump into Business Voice itself, go over some of the features and benefits, go over some of the plans that are available for you to choose, the compatible devices, and how that really compares to a traditional phone system. Then we'll run through a quick demonstration on how easy and show you how easy, it is to sort of make and receive calls within Teams and some of the other functionality. And then at the end, we'll spend 5 minutes or so if you have any questions. If you have any questions throughout this as I'm going along, please pop them in the chat and me and Angus will get to those at the end. So let's start with, what is Microsoft Teams? Well, it's quite a few things, but what it centrally is a centralized hub where users can start anything from things like internal chats, you can share documents, you can host meetings. There's so much functionality within it. What's great about it is because it's integrated with the other Microsoft 365 services, the likes of OneDrive, SharePoint, your Exchange and Outlook. It allows you to sort of seamlessly share and collaborate on files all in one place. And you can do this with essentially within Teams, and I'll show you slightly later in the demonstration, but you'll have things called Teams, essentially teams, which almost acts as departments. So you'll have maybe a company team, department teams such as sales, finance, and within those teams you can have channels. And what's great is within those you have sort of centralized locations where you can have chats with one another. These can be public or private, and you can share your documents directly from your OneDrive and SharePoint to interact. Now, what it also allows you to do is start documents directly from Teams. So Excel, for example, if you wanted to start an Excel spreadsheet, you could obviously import an existing one into Teams, but you could create one directly from Teams, and then you and anyone else in that Teams channel can collaborate, and that will update and save in real time. And if you want to sync that up with your OneDrive and SharePoint, again, you have the access to do that. So as I said, Teams works with across a sort of wide range of departments, so anything from sort of sales, marketing, HR, and I'll say this word quite a lot in this presentation, but because it has that collaboration sort of mentality and tool, you can do lots and lots of different things and have that one central place where you can sort of refer back to. So no more things like massive email trails or anything, but if you're working on projects as a group, you can use the application and graphs directly from Teams to use in your day-to-day business. And this is really crucial to sort of businesses that obviously during the last few months, especially with remote working, having that one place to be able to work on things is really crucial and great. And then some other sort of overcoming business challenges. So Teams can help with sort of really common challenges, such as obviously meetings, having that one central place for those meetings, sharing data. And because you're authenticated with the likes of single sign-on and multi-factor authentication when you log in, having a guarantee that all the documents that you share and work on are in a place that is safe. So only the people that you want to see it can. Again, with remote workers or people outside of your organizations, maybe your customers, if you want to invite those in, you've got the options to do that as well. It allows for external meetings to take place, and there's a lot more sort of functionality to that. This is a quick sort of diagram really of just the outline of Teams, and I'm sure if some of you use it, this will seem really familiar to you. But there's so much sort of within this. So the example on the screen, Mark 8 project team, that is a team itself, and then the channel is the research and development. And as you can see, at the moment they've got sort of chats going on. Someone has shared a file. Within those you can reply, you can start new conversations. You have that one sort of place where any sort of update is shared and instantly sort of noted to the people who need to see it. You've got an activity bar on the top left as well, so anything people can at you, and you can see directly from there or anything else that people have shared that you need to see. You can see all through these displays, and it works quite nicely. So I'll go through a few more of these Teams sort of functionalities in the demo, but let's jump into Business Voice itself. So what is Business Voice? Well, Microsoft Business Voice is a modern-based telephone solution which is built into Microsoft Teams. So together it delivers all-in-one communication, like I said, bringing together that chat, that meeting, and sort of collaboration tool in a single application. And it's made up of three main components. So you've got the phone system, and this will give you an array of features that you may sort of know and use in a sort of modern phone system, the likes of call forwarding, call attendance, call queues. It's all available within this package. You've got built-in audio conferencing as well. So what this will allow you to do is host meetings for up to 250 people. Now these can join in two main ways. So you've got the option when you host the meeting for them to join on the Microsoft Teams link, but maybe you have some people who want to not use Teams and call in on the phone. Well, that's absolutely fine. Each user will be assigned a separate number with a PIN that they can use as that conference number. Also included with these two is the calling plan. Now, with the calling plan, this will allow you to call any 01, 02, 03, 07 numbers, which are allocated in your allocation of minutes. And I'll go through essentially what's included in those minutes shortly. There's also the option if you need to call international numbers, there's a plan for that. And any premium numbers aren't included in the calling plan functionality, but there is ways to enable these and use another method of payment. So in terms of plans then for Business Voice, so Microsoft Business Voice is an add-on license to any sort of 365 SKU or plan with Teams as a license. So some common licenses I put on the screen there, so the likes of Business Basic, Business Standard, Business Premium. These are all licenses that you may already have in your business, and if you don't, obviously you can speak to your IT department who can obviously go through the benefits of other functionalities within those licenses as well. And then once you have those licenses in place, there's two main Business Voice component licenses. So you've got the Microsoft 365 Business Voice license, which is the one I'll be discussing the most on today's webinar. This comes with 1200 minutes. And you've also got the option to have it without a calling plan. So it will come with the phone system as default, which is all the phone system functionalities within Teams, but you also have the option to basically direct route with another provider. Now I'll talk about this slightly more in a few slides time, and if you want any further information we can provide that to you at a later date. And like I said before, there are plans available to add on to Business Voice which will allow for international calling. In terms of numbers, so each user that has a Business Voice license assigned to them will have the ability to have a unique number, as well as sort of numbers assigned to users. You can also port existing numbers in. So if you already have a phone system up and running and you have a list of numbers that you want to bring across, that's absolutely fine. You can port those numbers into Teams. There's also the option to get toll and toll-free numbers. Maybe you'll want to use those for audio conferencing ways. And again, you can speak to your IT department and we can get those set up for you. So let's look about what sort of business voice includes. So like I said, it's that phone system functionality for things like call transfer. It's all that modern phone system functions that you can do within it. And you can work quite closely with your IT department who can work out and sort of spec a nice sort of call sort of functions for you. So if you want call attendance or you want groups, you can have that all within Teams, and you can have queues all set up. One thing as well that you get with the calling plan is 1,200 minutes per user per month. Now, one thing to note with this is these minutes are pooled. And what that essentially means is, say you have 10 users within your organization that has business voice on their license. You'll have 1,200 times 10, and all those minutes are put into one pot. And then each 10 of those users can take from those minute allocations. So if you've got 1 or 2 users that go over their 1,200 minutes, their personal minutes, that's absolutely fine, because they'll just take from the existing pot. Obviously, if they do exceed those minutes, there is something called communication credits that you can get set up. And there's a slide in a couple of slides' time that will go through this in a bit more detail. You can dial into audio conferencing for up to 200 people. And also, because Teams is an application on its own right that Business Voice sits within, there's lots of different ways you can access this. So lots of different devices. You can have it on your phone. You can have the application on your desktop. And so whether you're in the office, out and about, you can access it, make calls, and see messages all in one place. Now on the screen now is just some of the sort of functionalities that it has available. So everything that you would be used to seeing, so the likes of call forwarding, call transferring, you can put those calls on hold. The transfer again has 2 sort of, you can either transfer direct to someone, either within your organization, or just an external number if you wish. You can also transfer with consult, which what that will do is almost like a warm handover. So if someone calls you or you call someone and you need to transfer, rather than sending it straight across to someone, you can talk to that person before pressing that transfer button, or invite them directly into your conversation and have all 3 of you on the call at the same time. Your things like caller ID, you can set up your personal voicemails and certain settings as well. So when people do call you and it rings out, instead of it going to just say a voicemail, you can have it always set up to either go to another person within the organization, or maybe you have yourself set up in a group, so a sales group, for example, and then if it rings out on your line, it will just go back into the loop and find someone in that sales group who's available, and if not, revert back to the auto attendant and straight back to the main number if you wish. So, and we'll go through some of those features in a second on the demonstration. So I touched on it earlier, but communication credits are simply a way to pay for services that fall outside of your plan. So the main reason you might want to get these set up, and please note you don't have to have communications credits set up on your tenancy, but they are a way for any out-of-bundle minute charges, or as you see on the screen, the likes of any dial outbound for users to use as a conference call. You can get these set up, and essentially you put a certain credit against the communication credit amount, so either 50, 60, as much as you want essentially, and it will take from that pot if you do use any outside of your allocated bundle of minutes. So with Teams and with Business Voice, there's a range of different devices you can use, and they sort of categorize them into sort of 2 main sections. So you've got the likes of shared devices that you may want to set up in things like conference rooms, and you can set up webcams and things like that to have, or you may want more personal devices. So depending on how you access Teams, if you access it on the application on, say, a smartphone, you have that is the device per se, so you have everything in one place, or you may want it on your desktop. One thing within Teams, because it supports a wide variety of devices, it sort of is suitable for how different people work. So some people may want to have say the application on their desktop, and they just plug a headset in and obviously communicate via that. Or some people may want the actual desk phone on their desk to be able to use, and that's absolutely fine. There's not a sort of one fits all. One person can have that and one person can have the other. It's really up to you, and again, your IT department can work out a strategy with you to get the right solution for you. So calling in business voice. So this is essentially, as far as the calling integration goes, there's two main types of architectures of business voice. So you've got everything in the cloud, which is what I've been discussing today. So known as the sort of Microsoft 365 business voice license, where everything is included by Microsoft. But let's say you also have sort of an existing contract with maybe a phone provider outside of that on a, say, a PSTN line, and it may not be up some time, but you also want to provide, say, the phone system from Microsoft, but the calling plan from another provider. Well, that is possible, and that's known as the Microsoft 365 Business Voice without calling plan option. This is how the sort of direct routing option would look. So essentially you would have the phone system from Microsoft, and then it would be on a direct route line through a third-party provider and then to Microsoft. So the calling plan would be consumed by the third-party provider. Now, there's lots of ways you might want to do that over business voice. And again, if you want any further details, you can also contact Angus or someone else from your IT to walk through some options with you. But for the sake of this webinar, I really just want to focus on business voice itself rather than the direct routing. So as I said, in terms of functionalities and features, one of the really cool features within this is auto attendance. So you can set up auto attendance and lots of different sort of ways and how you want to set this up with call queues and have it linked to different people. And this is all sort of done on the back end, so you don't need to worry about any of this. We can get all this sort of set up for you to match maybe a system you have existing or a system that you want sort of from scratch. We can get that set up and developed for you. So you can have, say, your main office number ported in and used as that auto attendant number, and then it will, say, go through, as this example, go through to maybe reception, and then the different departments can have different options. So press 1 for this, press 2 for sales, press 3 for finance, etc. So yeah, again, there's lots of different options you can have available to you, and again, your IT department can help with that. So more in terms of features within the Teams application itself, you've got things like call history. So within Teams, you'll have on the left-hand side, through your different tabs, you'll have a calls tab available. And that has 4 main options within it. So you've got speed dial, contacts, history, and voicemail. And history, so any call you make, you receive, or you make will all be linked and logged within history. If you need to call back that person, you can do that directly from history, or you can pull a log from the conversation you've had. Contacts as well. So you may have an internal Active Directory, and you can have a list of your contacts from internal, or you can set up your own external contacts by clicking the Add Contact button and filling out the information. So you may have a list of daily numbers that you ring, and you can all set this up in Teams. So it allows for quick access as well. Once you've called them a few times, because of the smart functionality within Teams, it sort of realizes the, say, common contacts that you've contacted and will allow you to sort of shortcuts, really give you shortcuts to be able to call them or message them all from a single screen. So as well as calling externally, you can also call users internally to your company. And an easy way of sort of finding users and doing that is through the speed dial. You can also search from in the top of the search bar within Teams. But from here, you'll see a list of users that you can place in either groups. So as you can see here, I've put 3 members under the sales group and then 3 members under the finance group. So this is just a nice way, really, of segmenting those users down into different categories to be able to find them easier. When making calls within Teams, you would do this again under the calls icon on the left, and then what you'll see at the bottom of the screen is this keypad. So any calls that you want to make, you can just type that number in the keypad and press call. That will then bring up a pop-up box where you can that call will start, and then within there you'll have different options to be able to while on the call, and I'll show you that in a second. Receiving the call is the same sort of thing. You'll have a notification which will appear on the right. Now you can customize this with likes of ringtones and how sort of how big you want that notification to be. So any incoming call you can see an answer. Again, once you've got this sort of set up and obviously got your rules and permissions set up, say this call is missed, rather than it, you can have it going to your voicemail, or you can have it going to other members in your team. From the settings tab within your teams, you have the option to set up various call handling. So these options include if obviously someone rings you directly, you can have those forwarded to another person. You can choose where calls go, so to your voicemail, and you can access this quite easily. You can also configure your own voicemail within this screen as well. And within the settings, you have other options in terms of privacy and notifications, so you don't miss anything. When on a call, and you may need to transfer this call to someone else, Teams makes this really easy, and you can do this by selecting the ellipsis, which is, you can see on the image on your screen, and once selected, it gives you a few options. So a few of the main ones are sort of transfer, and this is a cold transfer, so we'll direct to someone either in the organization or externally if you like. The consult with transfer option, which is the warm transfer. And you've also got options there to turn on live captions, which will allow almost like a subtitles of the person speaking. So, and this is a really cool feature I'll show you soon. And then if you do need to switch your device during the call, well, this is done really easily, and you can do this by selecting the device settings, and then you'll get a list of all the different devices that you have, so you can switch between different speakers, different microphones, cameras, etc., and have that all work in either on or before the call. So that's really useful as well. And as you can see here, that this is what the device screen looks like. And just lastly, I just wanted to make a point on the notifications. So on the top left of your Teams application, you'll see a tab called Activity. Now, Activity is a great way in Teams, not just to see any missed calls, but also messages, whether they be internal or external, all direct from one place. So by clicking on Activity, it will give you a log of the different activity maybe you've missed, and they will be highlighted in bold. Once you've clicked on them and viewed them, that will then go, that will unbold that text for you, so you know you've done that. And you can also respond within that view. So obviously, as I can see on the screen here, I've had a missed call from that number. I could simply click on that notification. It would take me directly to the history, tell me I've missed a call, and I could double click on that number, which would directly call that person back. So it's again, making it a lot easier for you. Rather than having to jump into lots of different screens, you can all do that from one centralized place. And that brings me to the demo. So bear with me a couple of minutes. I'm just going to get my stop sharing, and I'll get the environment set up, and we'll show you what Teams looks like.
So we already have a few questions from some people. So if anyone else does have any questions, if you just submit them into the chat or the Q&A box, we can get those answered after the demo.
Perfect. So hopefully, let me just share that. So hopefully you can see my screen okay now. So this is what Teams looks like. So if you haven't seen it before, you have all the different sort of tabs on the left. So activity, chat, your Teams channels. You can actually sync in calendars from Outlook. And if you click on here, if they're synced, that will appear there. But for the sake of Business Voice, all your functionality will appear under the Calls tab on the left here. So what I'll start with doing is, so on the bottom left, you can see the keypad. So it's, like I said, it's really sort of simple to make or receive calls from this page. And also, if you are on any of the other tabs, or maybe not even on this application at all, you maybe have it minimized, all calls will still come down, as long as you are available. And I'll go through some options about that in a second. So let's just make a call quickly to one of my test phones I've got here. So once I press call, that'll bring up another box which populates a call here. So it's just ringing through. So I'm just going to answer that on my other phone. So this is now in a call. So it tells me obviously the duration, and I've got some different options here on the top right. So let me maximize this for you. So I've got things like device settings. So as I said, I could have a play around with these if I want to while on the call. You may want to transfer, and that's fine, or hold the call, and you can just press that, and that will just simply hold it and alert when how long that person's on hold for. To resume that call back up, you just simply press resume, and that will just bring your call straight back in. If you want to transfer, you can just press the transfer button and basically say who you want to transfer. If they're in your 365 tenant, if they're internal, you can just search them by name and they will appear here. Or if they're not, you can just type the number in, and again, it will just phone the number directly from this screen. Same principle applies with the consult with transfer. It will just bring you through to that person straight away rather than transferring the call. And one of my favorite features with this is turn on live captions. So if I press that, hopefully, if it works, it will pick up the audio, as you can see on the screen here. So sometimes it doesn't always pick up the right word, but with a lot of these things, hopefully it does. So as you can see now, all the words I am saying are being picked up. So if you are on a conversation with someone and maybe the line isn't great and you want to just get prompted with something that this may pick up, you can just turn this on. And this is a free function within Teams that makes it a lot simpler. So I'll just close that call down now. And we'll just go through some other options within here. So as I said, you've got the speed dial option, which will, once you make and receive a lot more calls, Microsoft Teams is quite smart, and it will realize the calls that you make on a daily basis. Maybe they're the same person throughout the week, or maybe you get calls from a similar person. It will give you suggestions and prompts maybe to add them to contacts or different shortcuts to be able to call them or message them quickly. You can create contacts within the contact page by just simply pressing add contact, type the name and then information about them. And then again, if I want to call anyone direct, so obviously I've got Mark here, he's offline at the moment, and you can see that by this symbol. But if I wanted to message him or email him, I could do that by the chat. So chat is one-to-one chat within Teams. See, that will just bring me to an email message, but I can also call or video call him direct from here. If you do call anyone internally, please note that it won't actually take from your minutes as long as you do it from the audio call or video call. So you aren't going to be penalized if you use any calls internally. Obviously, if you bring anyone outside of the business into your calls, then that will consume from your minute pot. History will give you a sort of breakdown of the past calls you've made, whether they're outgoing or incoming, and the duration that you've taken. Now, if you do want a reporting is something that you can get. It will just give you a spreadsheet, a detailed sort of PDF report of the different calls that you've made, and that's something you can work with your IT department to produce. Say you want one every month just to see either a report of the calls made or a report of where we are allocated to minutes throughout the month. You can get that. And the last is a list of voicemails. So as you get voicemails into there, they will just appear one under the other. You can just simply listen to them back by clicking the play button, and that will play that message back for you. If you then need to call that person directly back, you can just simply go back to, sorry, where is it? Just press the callback function here, and that will call them straight back from this window. So as well as some stuff within Business Voice, so I want to sort of keep it there in terms of the demo for Business Voice, and a lot of this functionality, obviously, once the back-end stuff is done with your IT department, setting up the sort of the call queue environments and auto attendant to suit your workload. There's a lot of other features you can do yourself within Teams. So if I go to settings here, I've got this calls settings, and again, if I want to set up any forwarding, I can do this from simply click here. Maybe I've got a call group I want to do that to. I can type in the name of the group if that appears there. I can configure my own voicemail within this setting, and then obviously record my own greeting, so when anyone calls me and I'm not available, they'll hear a personal greeting from myself. Otherwise, it will just default to a automated first name dot last name. And then I can customize my ringtones as well to obviously prompt me when the call is coming in. There's also some other cool settings that you can play around with in terms of privacy and general settings. You can change the background to a darker color if you'd like, or high contrast. Which will obviously be set to your personal preference. This will change it to on a personal level rather than a tenant level. And just lastly, just wanted to apologize, I know we've gone slightly over time here. I just want to slightly touch on the different options in terms of seeing when people are available or not. So you have different status icons within Teams, and what it would do, so if you're available, obviously you can keep it as that, but if you are busy or maybe you don't want anyone to disturb you, you can click on this, which will change your status icon. If you do put yourself to do not disturb, any calls that you receive within Business Voice will automatically go to either voicemail or another personal group if you've got that set up that way. So please note that if you are seeing maybe voice calls come in and you're not too sure why, just make sure that you are either set on available, busy, or away. That will still allow calls to come in. Again, if you're out of office or maybe you're busy, you can also set yourself a sort of message that would appear here so your whole organization can see before they try and contact you. And we'll wrap that up just sort of past the hour. So I hope that was really useful. I hope you sort of got an insight to the sort of functionality of Business Voice. And yeah, we'll go with any questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Peter. So yeah, we have had a few questions in. So there's one question. There's two questions that I think are quite similar in how they work. So one is, can you call from Outlook through Teams? Another one is it work with TAPI or Go Integrator options?
So in terms of Outlook, to make the calls, you will need to use the actual Teams application itself. So what you can do is sync contacts from your Outlook to sort of move into Teams and then call from there. But you won't be able to sort of make the call directly from Outlook if that's what the question was.
I think that's what. And what about sort of TAPI and Go Integrator options? I think that's from its sort of external software. Sometimes you can, with phone systems, you can integrate the call, so you can click to dial options.
Yeah, so with Business Voice, yeah, it will be the case of just using the Teams application. There are certain third-party tools you can set up with direct routing, which obviously integrate with their providers' software. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, that within the Teams Business Voice, it will just be that application itself.
Okay, so yeah, it can be done via direct routing, but so maybe not just through the call plan version.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure of those tools specifically, but I know there are some on the direct routing options that enable sort of third-party applications. But we could look at that sort of on a case-by-case if you do have any sort of other applications you want to run side-by-side by this. That's not a problem.
No worries. I think let's do internal calls, use your minutes, which I think you went through. They don't, is that right?
Yeah, so any internal conversation you have with anyone within your tenancy, and what I mean by that, anyone within the Active Directory, it won't use the minute allocations. It's just if you are having an internal chat though with someone, you bring someone who's outside, maybe you call them, that will then sort of consume the minutes from the pot, but it won't duplicate them, so it won't use two people's lots of minutes. It will just do that in the case of one person. But yeah, any internal chats, that's absolutely fine.
Brilliant. Another question was, can existing handsets be used?
Yeah, so there's a wide range of sort of handsets that you can use within it. It'll be the case of sort of so Microsoft publish a sort of a document which goes through all the compatible devices, and there's quite a few. So we can look at the devices that you have, and we can make sure that they're either compatible or options that for compatible devices. Headsets are usually the thing that are sort of across the board are quite flexible. Handsets themselves, so actual desk phones, there are some limitations to that, but a lot of, if you have existing ones and they are eligible, then yeah, you can bring those across.
Perfect. Brilliant. So we had a question about the live captions on calls. So can you pull the text off into a document? And if so can that be saved and printed off?
So at the moment, it will only allow for it to, so there is a functionality within the Teams admin that you can get that set up, but that's not directly from the Teams application itself. So if they do need, yeah, so essentially the answer is you can get that set up if you want to, but yeah, it would need to be pre-configured before. So if not, it will just sort of show on the call. But if you have it set up in the back end, you can have that text visible later on down the line.
So I think that works quite well from either a legal industry or something like that that may need to record calls or at least get an idea of what's being said on those calls.
That's it, yeah. So it will, I mean, essentially the idea of it was to obviously help with any communication or any bad lines, but yeah, absolutely, you can if you wanted to use that as a transcript. As it stands currently, obviously Business Voice is an ever evolving product, and there are sort of features within the roadmap. One is call recording, so that is a feature on the roadmap that will hopefully come within time. But in the meantime, there's other things like the transcripts that can hopefully help with that.
I believe with direct routing, if you're using a third-party PBX, you can do an element of call recording.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so
Yeah.
if you use direct routing, there is some providers that provide that call functionality as part of their the sort of a separate system. So at the moment, the system within Business Voice, within Teams, doesn't have that capability, but you can use a sort of, when you use direct routing, you can use their software, which will record the calls. So yeah, if you did want to go down that path, then some providers will provide call recording. But like I said, it's a heavily requested feature that Microsoft are aware of, and it will be hopefully by some point in the next few months, if not early next year, something that's rolled out into Teams itself.
Perfect. I think the last question I've got is about out of office greetings. So I think I saw that one as well, actually. So on the voicemail, it had the option to set an out of office message. Does that link in with an Outlook out of office for emails?
So they are separate. So if you set an out of office up for your Outlook, you will need to set up a separate. So what it will do is say it will tell people that you are out of office if you've got it set up in Outlook, but that message won't sort of move across as well. So it will just say on the Teams application itself, it will give you the out of office symbol with no text. If you wanted to add any sort of separate text to Teams, then you would have to do that under the set Teams message, which I went through. But yeah, so it will move across in terms of show that you're out of office, but it won't bring across the out of office message that you would have set in Outlook to Teams. But you can set a separate one if you want.
Perfect. Well, yeah, I think that's all the questions that we've got on the chat. So yeah, unless anyone else has any sort of last questions at all. No. Well, thank you very much, Peter, for that. I really appreciate you taking the time to go through this with us. So yeah, yeah. Well, thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Angus.
No worries at all. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye
Speak
bye.
soon. Bye.